and welcome to the latest episode of Off the Fence. This is your Cheltenham daily show. It's brought to you in association with BoyleSports, but you know that by now. We are recording off the back of day 3, and later in the show we will be looking ahead to day 4, the final day of the Cheltenham Festival. But before we do that, we have to do a little bit of looking back from the day, and I think, Barry, we will kick off with you. We will go straight to one of the feature races, of course, the Stayers Hurdle. We knew that it was a deep contest beforehand, lots of horses in there with chances, but I don't think many people predicted Sire de Berlais winning at the festival for a third time, taking a Stayers Hurdle in the process. Pretty impressive from the 11-year-old and Connections.
Yeah, it was a great performance. Stayed on, so strongly to the line. Dashel Drasher looked like the one on the run to the last. Tia Hupu was coming with a run, but then Sire de Berlais, he just said it, staying on, jumped the last, and then when stamina really kicked in, he finished off strongly. He hadn't won a race since winning the Stayers at the Aintree Festival last season, so he was beaten 10 lengths or so behind Blazing Carl last day in Navan, so it was a big step up. But I would suppose Flooring Porter brought them a good gallop. Danny Mullins probably didn't get to dictate it as well as he might have liked, and it made it a proper test of stamina, and it suited the old warrior.
I mean, you rode this horse to victory in 2 Pertemps finals, which was pretty incredible in its own right. Obviously, a very different race and very different circumstances. But for the horse himself, at the age of 11, I know maybe, there was obviously the reversal of places in behind. It was scrapping behind. Everything went right for Sire de Berlais. But it is a pretty incredible performance from Gordon and the team to keep a horse like that sweet when he's going out doing battle in those sort of grueling races.
Oh, definitely. It was a great turnaround from his last run. He pulled up previous that. He had struggled for form all this season, but just came good at the right time. But I would say that the real test of stamina, that's what brought out the best of it. It was a war. Dashel Drasher, even kicking on early in the straight, added another layer to that. Tia Hooper was struggling to get on terms, if you like, and Sire de Berlais was just really strong from the last.
Tony, what were your takeaways from the Stayers Hurdle? I don't think we even mentioned Sire de Berlais when previewing it many times over the last few weeks and months.
No, I don't think too many people probably missed him being mentioned either. He obviously has been an excellent spring horse over the years. I was a little bit disappointed with Tiupu. Maybe he had a little bit much to do, but he was still there with a chance jumping the last. He was shifting this way and that. He just didn't pick up well enough. I was a bit disappointed. Now, if he'd have said to me beforehand he was going to the last with Sire de Berlais and Dashel Drasher, you'd like to think he would have put the better of those. Dashel Drasher deserves a hell of a lot of credit for his run. He's had a really good season and hitting the bar a lot, so cracking run out of him. There is a bit of drama before, and the French horse really, really strong in the market. That was a real surprise gamble, because again, he wasn't a horse that maybe people were talking up too much beforehand. So yeah, I don't know if it will go down in the generations as brilliant stayer and hurdle running, but a very good training performance for Gordon Elliott to get this horse back to something like his best at, as you say, 11 years of age.
Tony, let's stick with you to discuss the other feature race on the card, which of course was the Ryanair Chase, many people's banker of the meeting in Shishkin here. We knew that it was going to be a race where, when we were talking about Shishkin, it was kind of he'll either win or fall out the back of the telly. He didn't do that, but those same rules maybe would have applied to Envoi Allen, and he went and won. He's so quirky, he's hard to get right, but when everything is right, in he goes. What did you make of his performance?
Well, in fairness, did you not fancy him last evening? I certainly remember you mentioning him.
I did, yeah. I asked you if you thought I was mad, to which you confidently replied that I was. So
yeah. Thanks for that, Vanessa. Again, if Elliott's training performance at Sire de Berlais was good, like the Bromheads with Envoi Allen was maybe another level again. He hasn't, he having been very consistent with Gordon Elliott, albeit in novice races and bumpers, he's been up and down a lot with the Bromhead. But this was, I think you'd have to say, a career best, at least since joining Henry de Bromhead, coming back from having run very disappointingly in the King George. And amazingly, for all the people who have maligned him, and I include myself in that, he's now a 3-time Cheltenham Festival winner. Yeah, funny sort of race in the sense that Shishkin obviously underperformed, but still, I suppose, plugged on into second there. French Dynamite luckily had a chance. Hitman, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to get a look back at this to see what I really made of it, but the first thought in my head was a really good training performance.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. And Barry, over to you for maybe a bit more of a Shishkin debrief. I think many people thought, like I was saying earlier, that he'd either win or sort of bomb out altogether. But as Tony said, he did plug on for second, and he did show some heart in doing that, despite the mistake that he made and the fact that Nico said over the first two he was sort of a bit of a repeat of last year, where he really, well, where obviously he was pulled up in the Queen Mother Champion Chase. So bit of a muddling performance from Shishkin. They're now talking about stepping him up in trip, but that wasn't him over any trip, was it, that effort?
No, I don't think so. And it's something we've discussed before, more so maybe with Goran than Ascot, but the proximity between the Ascot Chase and the Ryanair or the Cheltenham Festival in general, it is tight enough. It can affect some horses. I know I won the Ascot Chase on Riverside Theatre. No, he did win the Ryanair, but I promise you, he was never on the bridle for 2 yards of that race where he travelled brilliantly in Ascot. So it can come a little bit tight. And likewise, the Reynoldstown and the RSA or the Brown Advisory, the same. So I just wonder, had he fully recovered from that Ascot run, it would affect some horses more than others. But I'm not sure if he was just back to full sparkle, if you like. And I thought he did brilliantly to finish where he finished, considering the desperate mistakes he made, and was looking at the fall. I think it was a 3 out. He turned sideways. Nico was lucky not to come off him, but he was lucky not to turn over. But give credit to the winner. We heard the reports afterwards how well he'd been working for the last couple of weeks. So he was showing signs of his former glory. So it was great to see him bounce back, and hopefully he can build on that.
Yeah, fingers crossed he can, but you just wouldn't rely on him. But anyway, he had his moment again at Cheltenham. Barry, let's stick with you for the Turners. So disappointed in Mighty Potter. What happened? Please talk to me about this.
Well, Harry Cobden was very good on stage start, set a nice pace. The ground probably wasn't as soft as people would have predicted it to be, but he rode a brilliant race, but the horse was on song. I thought Mighty Potter was close enough if he was good enough. You could say Appreciate It was a little bit maybe off the pace, but we thought those horses were better than that. I was particularly disappointed with Mighty Potter. You know, he was there. He was a couple of lengths down, turned in. I know they were quickening from the front, but he's a Grade 1 winner over 2 mile as a novice hurdler. You know, he should have been able to deal with that pace. So for me, he either underperformed or we had him at a higher regard than he should have been all season. I was really disappointed with him. Obviously, not too excited by Appreciate It, but he maybe threatened more than even Mighty Potter did. So it was a bit disappointing, but hats off to the winner. Stage start, put in a good performance, jumped brilliantly. I thought Harry Cobden gave a brilliantly judged ride from the front.
Tony, how do you read this race on sort of first viewing? You know, I'm sure you'll watch it back plenty, but has Stage Star progressed forward in leaps and bounds, or has the likes of Mighty Potter and Appreciate It, but specifically the former, underperformed at the festival for a second year running?
I think Barry summed it up really well there. Harry Cobden was obviously good from the front. Bit of a waiting ride in front, didn't go that hard. The fact that the other outsider was up there the whole way would also maybe suggest that you know, there was a bit of a steady pace. Yeah, Mighty Potter seemed to do everything pretty right up to that point. He was jumping well. He'd done no issues with him before the start or anything like that. But just maybe it's the track or something like that, or he just doesn't travel that well. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't have had in my head that he would have lacked a bit of pace, because he was quite quick at Leopardstown from kind of 2 out, and as Barry mentioned, like a Grade 1 winning novice hurdler over 2 miles twice. So yeah, just a disappointing run. Interesting to see there's anything come to light subsequently.
I don't know why I'm being so sort of down on the race in general. It's just because I was such a Mighty Potter fan. But I should just say, I was delighted for Paul Nicholls. Obviously, a first festival Grade 1 win since 2019 for the Nicholls Cobden team. So very important for them. Barry will just quickly mention the Jack de Bromhead Mares Novices Hurdle, where you wear it well, one for the Snowdon team. Was a pretty good effort, to be fair. Went off a big price in the end, but I think he couldn't help but be taken with her performance.
No, it was a good performance, but another very good front running ride from Gavin Sheehan. dictated a nice pace, but she had the form, she had the experience, form on the ground. She was placed in the shallow hurdle behind the horse got beaten her, Miss Allen, but she had a good level of form, got a really good ride. Lucia followed her, wasn't good enough on the day, and you could argue maybe Magical Zoe, coming from a long way off the pace, finished really strongly. Had she been ridden a bit closer, maybe she'd have fared better, but the winner was strong at the line and won well.
Absolutely. Right, that was our review of day 3. Let's roll on to our preview of day 4 of the Cheltenham Festival. And of course, we kick off the Friday with the juveniles, with the Triumph Hurdle. And Barry, it's straight over to you here. We've got Lossiemouth still at the top of the market, 13-8, taking on your beloved Blood Destiny at 7-4. Galopin 4-1, Zenta 12-1, all trained by Willie Mullins. But what order will those top horses come home in? And is there a horse there at a bigger price? You cannot abandon Blood Destiny now, considering, when did you tip this horse up? Back in early January, I think, for this race?
Yeah, after he won his maiden in Cork. I loved him then, I love him still. Interested that Paul Townend rides Lossiemouth, but maybe the fact that Rich Ritchie owns him, there could be a little bit of emphasis to be put on that, I suppose. But no, for me, Blood Destiny. And I think as well, if you looked at the Leopardstown race where Lossiemouth got stuck in traffic and whatnot, I thought, maybe just might have found a little bit more for pressure. I wonder if Blood Destiny was in the same situation, would he find a bit more? Because that's what I would expect. And I think both this track, the ground is on the soft side, but it's given dry overnight, which is going to work in Lossiemouth's favour. But I think that the emphasis on stamina, I'd still have my money on Blood Destiny to come out on top. Apart from those two, it's very hard to look elsewhere, really.
Okay, Tony, do you think Galopin is the wrong price at 4-1 behind Lossiemouth and Blood Destiny because of the sort of jockey arrangements, what happened the last day with Lossiemouth? But is she being overlooked in the market at 4-1?
Perhaps a little bit. It will be interesting to see, I suppose, traffic-wise and field size-wise. I'm actually surprised at the number of runners that have turned up in this. There's 15. It feels like an old school Triumph Hurdle with the possibility for a little bit of carnage. Some of these are quite likely raced. Like John McConnell has a horse there with 1 run over hurdles. Henry de Bromhead ascending, he gets 2 runs over hurdles. So just brings that little bit of chaos potential into it. I'm on Blood Destiny. I think he's a bloody short price now at the minute, especially with Paul Townend picking Lossiemouth over him. I'm not massively surprised with that. The horse with the graded form, but Patrick Mullins, looking at it cold-heartedly, and I'm sure maybe the late market might suggest it'd be a bit of a negative now, him against the professionals. He's never won a race over obstacles, a Grade 1, open Grade 1 over obstacles at the Cheltenham Festival against the pros. So I don't know. I'd like to see Blood Destiny win. I don't have a strong betting opinion at the current odds. But I do think there's a possibility of a bit of carnage in this with so many lately raced horses declared for it.
Yeah, and so many horses, and only with those unknown profiles at much bigger prices. And with Willie Mullins dominating the betting, you just can sense there's going to be a horse at a massive price, at least filling the places. But anyway, let's move on, Tony, to the County Hurdle, where Hunter's Yarn is well back for the Mullins team yet again, 9-2. Favourite currently Filey Bay 5-1, Pembroke 7-1, Sharjah 8-1, Gin Coco 9-1, Class Act in their Piper at 14s. We sort of you were swerving a few of the handicaps on day 3. Have you got stuck into the day 4 handicaps? Is this much more like your bag, Tony?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've 2 against the field here. The horse I mentioned, I think a while back, Magno Glory, Terence O'Brien. I think he's got a chance. Horse that hasn't run since Listowel last September, but that was a really good performance to win a handicap hurdle there that has worked out very well. He would not have looked a horse to me that would have been suited by a fast kind of 2 miles in Listowel on his previous form. So I think the fact that he was able to win there and come from further back than the few that he beat and be well on top of the line is probably a sign that he was well handicapped that day, and whether he's still well handicapped, I'd be hopeful, but the way the form worked out, that he would be. Obviously the jockey is a good man for £3 at this point. His record fresh, I think the last 4 times he's ran fresh, he's won the 3 of them. So I think he's got a chance, definitely. And the other one I was interested in, again, yard and form, Ballyadam. He was 5th in the race last year, and he's £4 higher now. But I thought last year the race just didn't go ideally for him. He got trapped a little bit down the inside, which wasn't the right part of the track. And he got into a little bit of bother as well. Now, obviously, the County Hurdle form from last year has been very, very strong. It's State Man. First street himself is 10 pounds higher. Colonel Mustard was third. He's gone on, possibly could have won in Kelso there last week. So I think he's an interesting horse. He disappointed in the Galway Hurdle after that, but got right back on track with the Dublin Racing Festival behind Gaelic Warrior. And I think he's kind of an interesting runner as well. The only thing I would say is both of those horses have been well backed now in the last 3 or 4 hours. And I would say, people, if you are thinking of backing them, taking my advice this week, you probably haven't any money left. But I would sort of be aware that there's a full like 17 or 18 hours market cycle to come here. I think the one thing we've seen all week is how volatile prices have been. They're just up and down and in and out, swings here and there. And the one thing you don't want to be doing is playing at the bottom of the market. And if horses kind of been backed in, and there's still so many hours to go, I would just sit back and wait and just hopefully they bounce back out. I don't think either of those can get any shorter. It's like the likes of Faye, and these are going to have to come for a bit of support at some point.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, seeing how the market goes. Barry, did you have a strong view in the County Hurdle?
Yeah, I like to. I thought Pembroke looked as if he didn't get home when beating my Rock My Way over 2.5 on Trials Day. I thought Pembroke had a chance. Skelton's have won 3 of the last few of these county hurdles, so they know how to get one ready for that. And the other I thought that was interesting was First Street having his a first run after a wind up, and he wears a tongue tie. He disappointed the last day in the hurdle in Wincanton behind. I like the way you're moving there, and a little bit disappointing that day. But before, there was only a head behind Dashel Drasher in the Rail Keel, went third to Maria's Rock. So that's a good level of form. If there's improvement on that through the wind up, I think he'd have to have a chance. He might be a nice price.
We will roll on, Barry. You can take the Albert Bartlett. That's the next race that we will be previewing. The Albert Bartlett betting reads Corbett Cross at 7-2, 3 Car Bragg 7-2, Embassy Gardens 8-1, Hidden Valley Lake 8-1, Envoi Des Champs. I can't ever say that horse's name, for God's sakes, 11-1. Let's be clear about it in there at 12s. Monty Star 16s, obviously stablemates, Hidden Valley Lake, Barry. Corbett's Cross, the vibes have not been great about him, but he's still up at the top of the market. You've had him near to the ground all week. What's people saying about this horse?
Yeah, no, there has been vibes, but I suppose you take them with a pinch of salt too, when they're especially they're coming from shrewd outfits like Emmett Mullins or Charles Burns. It's a competitive race. I always felt it lacked the standout horse. It got that standout horse for me when Corbett's Cross showed up, and especially with his performance the last day. When getting up to beat Found at 50. 3 Car Bragg has a good solid level of run. There's strong vibes for him as being such a good stayer. But with the forecast given dry overnight and given a good day tomorrow, it looks, I will be coming back to Corbett's Cross. If he has the pace to do what he did the last day over 2 mile, if he could win a handicap easily over 3 mile off a mark of 130, I think he's potentially a very, very good horse and could be value at 7-2, presuming he is in good health, but that's a punt in itself. But I'd be a little bit optimistic if he's lining up that he's in good form.
Okay, I can see that, yeah. And look, Tony, you were waxing lyrical about this horse when he won the last day over that shorter trip. Has your view on him changed, I suppose, as we're now on the eve of the Albert Bartlett?
No, not at all. I think Barry's covered a lot of it there. I don't think there's any other horse in the field who could have done what he did at Nice the last time in terms of dropping back in trip and being able to beat a fast horse who is himself a very good prospect in Found at 50. His jumping held up so well against him. He was able to travel with him, and then he was able to get the better of him in the closing stage. I think Corbett's Cross, I just think the amount of ability showed there should make him very hard to beat if he's able to repeat it, allowing that it is a quick turnaround. I think we know from before that staying shouldn't really be a problem for him, judged on his wins at Limerick and Fairyhouse and Testing Ground. The other one that I have a bit of time for is Favori de Champs. He's been off since Limerick and Christmas, but good staying performance out of him. He's an older horse with plenty of experience built up. I can see him running a race, but I do think if Corbett's Cross turns up in the ace form and gets usual luck and running, he's going to be very hard to beat. Okay,
a lot of love for Corbett's Cross in the Albert Bartlett, and Tony. That's why he's the legend of the show. Doesn't crucify that horse's name that I like to every time I mention him. Tony, let's stick with you and kick on with the Gold Cup. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been building up to all season. Galopin Des Champs, 15-8 favourite for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. A Plutard looking to regain his title, 6-1. Bravemansgame, 13-2. Noble Yates, 8-1. Statler in there at 9s. Conflated is 14s. Protector at 14s. And after that, it is slightly bigger prices. So this is it, Tony. Last thoughts on the Gold Cup. Take it away, please, sir. Who wins it?
I think it's the race in the meeting. I think it's such an interesting race. It's very rare that you get a Gold Cup where basically every relevant horse makes it. The only horse maybe you'd be lacking maybe something like Asterion for lunge for comedy value. But the race is just so deep. Everything's there. All the trial winners, the Grand National winner, last year's impressive winner. Now, I don't have a strong betting opinion on it. Galopin Des Champs, he still has to prove his stamina a little bit. We're a bit unsure about that. The ground, there's a bit of cutting. I don't know if it's too bad, maybe, especially compared to Irish standards. He may well improve again for it. A Plutard. Well, Henry de Rob had 3 winners this week, and all 3 of them have come off, I think, arguably disappointing runs or runs below the best. So can he pull another resurrection job with this horse? It's been the team of the week in other races as well. He might well be able to do that because his performance in the race last year was definitely one of the better ones in the last 20 years or so. But Bravemansgame, I had a few quid on him in the run up to the meeting. The ground looked like it was going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be the reason that he gets beaten unless we get an awful lot of rain the night and into tomorrow. Paul Nicholls has said that he's improved this season. If he was only him saying that and it wasn't been reflected on the track, I would be questioning it. But he looked a different horse to me in the King George. Came off it before long press and found plenty to get the better of that horse. I think he would have been well on top if he had stood up at the last. And yeah, I'm going to have something on him, but again, it definitely wouldn't be a strong opinion relative to the other races in the card.
Yeah, understandable given the many different layers to this race. Barry, are you in agreement that this is a particularly deep Gold Cup?
It is, but there is one standout horse, Galopin Des Champs, and I think he's going to be very hard to beat. We're obviously trusting that he will get the trip, and if he does get the trip, he does win. But if you took him out of the race, what would you call the winner? It's very difficult. Like, you can make cases for so many. Ground on the day will dictate a lot. Obviously, you're going to have fresh ground on the Gold Cup track. It'll be untouched since last year, so that's a big help. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like, for me, A Plutard and Statler, those horses might struggle Bravemansgame on if the ground was on the slow side. Where if it's is that way, something like Protect the Rat, Noble Yates, they will thrive in those conditions. So there's a little bit of wait and see from me on it just to see how slow it is. But at the minute, it's looking somewhere midway, which I think even confuses the issue and makes it even more open. But I'm very much on the Galopin Des Champs camp. I think he will get the trip. He is the horse to beat. He would be the one of the others. Noble Yates, Protect the Rat, maybe there's a little bit of value in those each way. But you're trying to cover your bets with the ground being on the slow side. It could be a little bit slow for Statler, could be a little bit slow for A Plutard. But with the resurrection that Henry's been doing with horses this week, maybe A Plutard could bounce back into the scene. But we won't know that until about 3:40 tomorrow.
You rattled through a good few there. I think it's fair to say that you just got to go with what your everyone's got an opinion in this race, and rightly so, and none of them at this stage you can really draw a line through. I think it's fair to say. But Galopin Des Champs is your favourite with BoyleSports at the moment at 15-8. Let's move on, Barry. The Hunter's Chase. I can safely say that I have very little to say about this amateurs race. Beausoleil is a 5-2 favourite. Berlais obviously trying to win the race after last year, 7-1. Famous Clermont, 7-1. Chris's Dream at 8. Bob and Co in there at 14-1, but no David Maxwell on board this time. Do you have a handle on the Fox Hunters, Barry?
A small one. I was coming around to Berlais on the base when the ground looking as slow as it could be. He's a dour stayer. He stayed on. He was off the bridle from so far out, but that was on better ground last year. If it was to be on the slow side, I think that will help him. He was a winner last time, and Naas did make hard work for it, but that's natural for him. He makes hard work of everything. So the slower the ground, the better for him. That would give him a chance. Chris's Dream is a highly rated horse and a smart horse in his earlier career. On the rules, if you like, a good winner of the Tri-Town. He's definitely one you'd have to take note of. probably won at an each way price. But if the ground is on the slow side, I think Billaway could be a little bit of value against the favourite.
Okay, interesting, like that. And what about you, Tony? Have you got stuck into Fox Hunters and amateurs point-to-point form?
No, I haven't. I'd like to see David Christie win it. Seems to do very well with that small bunch of hunter chasers that he has, but no view.
Okay, what about the Mares Chase then, which we will move on to next, Tony, and we will stick with you. Allegor de Bassi, 5-4, Impervious, 2-1, Jeremy's Flame, 6s, Magic Days, 11-1, Ellie May in there at 20-1, Riviere de Tel, 20, bigger prices thereafter. It's not quite the Mares Chase we were hoping for at one point in the season, but a lot of the main players are lining up here, none more so than Allegor de Bassi, but you're still worried about her jumping, are you?
I would be a little bit. Impervious, so we may fancy in the race. Her form has got a couple of boosts in the last 7 days. Johnny McMee winning in Naas. I think Dino Blue ran really well in the Grand Annual. I think it was to Impervious's credit that she could beat Dino Blue at Cork. I think everything was in Dino Blue's favour there. The sharp 2 miles, she got the lead, jumped better than Impervious. Impervious still able to beat her. And then Impervious had won with a bit in hand at Bunchestown, despite having a big penalty over Johnny and me. I think our time there was really excellent, particularly the amount of ground they put between themselves and the rest in the short straight there. So I think she's possibly a bit more reliable than Allegor de Bassi. Allegor de Bassi has a massive ability season, a massive ability ceiling, and it has never been beaten. But I think Impervious, that little bit of experience edge, I would lean her way.
Yeah, I think I'm with Impervious as well, but the class could be an Allegor de Bassi, Barry, and I think that's how you see this, don't you? That she's a class act.
She is a class act, and I think if you could guarantee a good round of jumping, she will be the one to beat. But no, I'd be with Tony for all the same reasons. Impervious was really good at Punchestown. Obviously, good form boost with Dino Blue and Journey with Me. And she seemed to, for me, she got a great experience in Punchestown, taking on the boys as well. It was a good test, winged the last, but jumped really well through the race. I think she's more reliable, and she has a very strong level of form. So no, I would be Impervious for that reason mostly.
More reliable, and as we know, and as Cheltenham has proved once again this week, jumping is the name of the game, and hopefully we can bank on her to do just that. Barry, let's stick with you again for the Martin Pipe. Please send our viewers and listeners home with a winner. Nice and trappy renewal of this. Spanish Harlem is your 9-2 favourite. Cool Survivor 5-1. Imagine 5-1. Might Eye in there at 10s. Irish Hill at 12s. All horses that have, put their hand up in the air, as sort of showed their credentials for a race like this. But I don't know, Spanish Harlem seems very short when you can make cases for so many in behind. Yeah,
well, I'd be drawn to Imagine. Caught the eye behind Hunter's Yarn in Navan. And obviously, be interested to see Hunter's Yarn fares in the county hurdle. But no, I'd like Imagine. Gordon, he likes to target this race too. Having been he formerly worked for Martin Pipes, and he passed Martin Pipes' festival record as well today. So it's a race he always has on his radar. The other I thought was Might Eye. I thought he could do well off a fast pace. He was second in Cheltenham on Trials Day over 2 mile. He struggled at the trip. He was a bit too keen over 3 mile in Haydock early in the season, but I think 2.5 off a strong pace, I think he could have a chance. So I do like Might Eye, but Imagine will be the one for me.
Tony, Spanish Harlem has been named as the best chance of the week for Mullins in the handicap. So are you surprised by that tag given to him or not really?
I thought he might have slightly better chances in the county hurdle. I thought the Irish ones at the front end of the market here now, they weren't the strongest bunch, and it might be a little bit of the historical record of Irish novices coming into this race. I think the extra run has maybe impacted some of them. The fact that they need the state man rule, they need the 4th run to qualify. So I was looking elsewhere. Iroko would be my main bet in the race. Trained by Green and Guerrero there. They've had a really amazing season, kind of 50+ winners and hitting around 20% strike rate all season. He was running in juvenile hurdles after arriving from France last season. I thought it didn't suit him at all. Just too much of a speed test, particularly the Adonis that he ran. But he's gone up and trip there, ran twice at Weatherby. I thought he showed a good attitude the first day, despite probably racing on the wrong part of the track, and then just different horse the next day. Just won so easily, 14 or 15 lengths, pushed out kind of right to the lane. I presume with a view to get into a good race like this. And you've Aidan Kelly up, who's kind of a little bit the hot hand in Ireland at the moment. So I think he is the one at the front end that I would be most keen on. There's two there at bigger prices that will be having smaller stakes on, but I do think have potential off the mark. Spirit of Legend is one. English handicapper's been quite tough on him. I think he's up £8 from Ireland, but his form at Leopardstown Christmas is just very, very strong. The horse that was placed in Lanzarote winning it. You had Gay Cool, who's won since. You had Hollow Sound has run well since. Basically, everything that's finished in the first 6 or 7 there has either won or run very well since. Spirit Legend himself looked to be travelling well when he fell next time at Navan, and then at Fairy House the last day. Took a little bit of a negative ride, and I would expect them maybe to come back to that Leopardstown form tomorrow, hopefully. And the other one is a horse who ran the race last year called O'Fleuron. I'm not sure he was really be suitably track position last season, and I thought he got a little bit of hard luck at Punchestown on his last run. He seemed to run into every kind of blind alley that day, numerous bits of hampering before finishing well. So they'll be my 3 against the field, but Iroko very much the main one of those.
Okay, a few darts to throw them from Tony in the Martin Pipe. And that wraps up our preview of day 4 of the Cheltenham Festival. But before we go anywhere, let's head over and get the thoughts of Gold Cup winning jockey and BoyleSports ambassador Robbie Power to see what he fancies on the final day of the Cheltenham Festival.
Day 4 of the Cheltenham Festival, it's Gold Cup day. All eyes will be on Galopin Des Champs up against Absolute Tard, who was a terrific winner of the Gold Cup next year. Can he bounce back to that sort of form? I think he can. He seems in great form. But don't rule out Manella Indo each way in the Gold Cup. I think he's overpriced. He's first and second in the last 2 Gold Cups. The day starts off with the Triumph Hurdle. I think this is a race Willie Mullins will definitely win. With which horse? Blood Destiny is the vibes coming from the Close Sutton camp that he's the one they have to beat against Lossiemouth, his stable companion. Then you have the County Hurdle. Ballyadam has an each way chance in this. He was placed in the race last year, had a good run at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I think around 16 to 1 he's good each way value in the race. The Albert Bartlett, what a competitive race this is. Henry de Bromhead's doubly represented with Hidden Valley Lake and Monty Star, but I think 3-card Bragg for the Gordon Elliott stable could be a massive danger. He's going to improve stepping up in trip. He looks stamina laden, and I think he'll take a lot of beating. The Christie's Fox Hunters. Chris's Dream, Grade 2 winner of the track, beaten Shorthead in a Grade 1 as well in Fox Hunter Company. He's won 2 points very impressively, and I think he'll take a lot of beating in the Fox Hunters. We finish off today with the Martin Pipe, and Gordon Elliott, I think, has a great record in the race, and I think he's got one laid out for this. Imagine, second on his last 3 starts, and I think he's the one to keep on the right side of it.
Thank you very much to Robbie Power, the BoyleSports ambassador, of course. Right, that just about wraps up the show. But before we go, guys, it's naps time. Barry, we'll come to you first. Please, may I have your nap of day 4 of the festival?
I think I'll stick with my old friend Blood Destiny.
Ah, yeah, I thought I could have guessed that. I think it's fair to say. Tony, what about you? What is your nap, please?
I'll go Corbett's Cross.
Ah, bang, bang, both of you sticking to what you've been saying for a long time. I like that. And I'll just cheer you all up by shoving in Impervious as well as my nap. And then that's what the boys thought too. So that wraps up the show, everyone. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us on these Off the Fence daily shows throughout the course of the Cheltenham Festival. We have thoroughly enjoyed doing them. Hopefully you guys out there have thoroughly enjoyed watching and listening to them. Be lucky on day 4. Enjoy yourself and be back with us on Tuesday evening, where we will be back to our normal setup and we will be reviewing all things Cheltenham Festival 2023. But for now, that was Off the Fence.